Hello. Today I want to talk a little bit about the government's idea, their plan to try to resolve some of our financial problems by going after the weakest and the poorest in society, that is to say, benefit claimants. Now, we all know that the UK economy is not doing very well right now. In fact, it's really quite weak, despite the fact that we are global Britain and an AI superpower. And things are not helped by what's going on in the White House. And I think it's quite interesting that whereas a lot of our problems have come from the fact that we left the EU and we cut ourselves off from the richest and most successful market in the world, and likewise Trump is doing much the same, and no doubt that the consequences will be the same for the United States as they have been for us. In other words, when you erect barriers, whether it's tariffs or other barriers to trade, you just end up getting poorer. And last week, as we all know, Trump suddenly got up one morning, decided to put 25% tariffs on all imports of aluminium and steel into the United States. As a worldwide application. And immediately, for example, the EU imposed reciprocal tariffs on a whole load of products. But we're in a slightly different position because Keir Starmer he doesn't want to decide between EU and America, and he wants to kind of keep all his options open. And so we haven't imposed any tariffs, reciprocal tariffs on anything coming from the United States. But instead, what we're going to do, we're going to send out Jonathan Reynolds to try and talk some sense into the Trump administration. This is Jonathan Reynolds, who's the Trade and Industry Secretary, who was, before he became an MP, I think he was an assistant to another MP, and then he trained to be a solicitor, though he didn't actually qualify. And since then, he's been in Parliament, so he should be able to sort them all out. And I think what we're hoping is that Trump will say, yes, okay, 25% tariff on every country in the world except the United Kingdom, because I like them. And we've already tried with a letter, with King Charles's letter, inviting him for a second unprecedented second state visit, which I think promises to be quite interesting, because I think, as Trump would say, it's going to be good television. I think the whole world will be watching this, because we're going to have Trump who's a convicted felon, a fraudster, a convicted rapist, a guy who was twice impeached when he was first prime president, a guy who cannot complete a full sentence without lying, a guy who is presently damaging world trade drastically and is alienating American allies that have been built up over years and years. This guy is going to come and he's going to be honoured with parades and all the rest of it, and there'll be the big dinner, which there always is on these state visits, and so he will be making a speech saying that probably by that time he'll have invaded Greenland, and saying that he's going to make Canada the 51st state of America, while standing next to the King of Canada. It's going to be interesting. Now, when I say that we're poor, it's as some people say, the UK is a very poor country with some very rich people, but the poorest of the poor are very poor. And ITV News the other day, they came out with a piece in which they said that 3 million UK households are £3,000 a year worse off than the poorest households in Germany. That's Germany. That's the one we keep quoting in order to try and reassure ourselves that we're not doing too badly, because Germany's had a bit of a recession. Anyway, £3,000 a year worse off than similar households in Germany, and £1,500 a year worse off than the lowest households in France. So our poorest are poorer than much poorer than people in Germany or France. And they also said that they are poorer than the poorest parts of Slovenia, where average disposable income is almost £900 a year higher than it is in the UK. In Malta, it's £1,000 higher, and in Ireland, it's £2,300 a year higher. So our poor are very poor, and so those are the people that the government. I think they've had a look at Doge. They had a look at Elon Musk in Doge, and they thought, well, he's going after all the poor people. Poor people are weak everywhere. They can't do anything, don't have any political power and so on. And the main thing is to keep the rich people happy. And so we'll have some of the same. And I just want to tell you about some of the people they're actually going after. The total benefit bill is 265 billion, which is a huge amount when you look at it. But half of that, 135 billion, is state pensions, and that's not even the government's money. That's money that people have paid in over a lifetime, and they're entitled to. So only 130 billion is actually benefits. Of that 130 billion, 60 billion is paid out in universal credit, and this is paid to 6 million people. And 38% of those people actually are working. So they're working and not having enough money to live on. So they're really, really poor people. 14 billion is paid out in housing benefit. That's to stop people being made homeless, which would be more expensive. 12 billion is child benefit. Well, that's a cost that every nation has to pay, looking after children. And 43 billion, this is the one that we're targeting. 43 billion, this is for disability. It's 7.4 million people, and these people are, many of them, waiting for hospital treatment, so they can't work, but nonetheless they're going after them. And they're receiving employment supports, so those who are working. This has helped to get to work and so on. They receive mobility allowances, things like paying for wheelchairs and hoists to get in the bath and so on, and paying for carers as well. And carers are extremely important, because if you haven't got carers, then you have to go in a care home, and if you go in a care home, the costs are just ridiculous anyway. So this is all, this 43 billion is money which is really badly needed by the recipients. But of course there are some who'll be fraudulent. There are some people who could work and are not working, and there always will be. And that's who we're going after. And it's estimated that the total amount being defrauded is something like 6.31 billion. How they get quite such a precise figure, I have no idea. Now, supposing they were very, very successful, they're going to need thousands of new civil servants. They're going to need endless investigations. They've got 24 million people receiving one benefit or another. They're all going to have to be investigated, all going to have to be checked. And what's the chance of success? I mean, if they get half that 6 billion, if that's what is being defrauded, if they get half that, that's 3 billion. And it's going to cost an absolute fortune. And this is at a time when they want to get rid of civil servants. Civil servants have gone up, from pre-pandemic, we had the 364,000. It's now 515,000, more than 500,000 civil servants. And this initiative is going to need more civil servants to get in very little money. It just won't be cost effective. And incidentally, something which you probably don't know is that benefits paid to households as a percentage of GDP in the UK puts us 5th out of the G7. In other words, Italy, USA, France, Germany all pay more than we do in a higher percentage of GDP for benefits, social benefits. It's only Japan, who are equal with us, and Canada, who pay slightly less. But the sickening thing about all this, and the unfairness of all this concentration on this initiative, which is only really designed to appeal to daily express workers, the ones who are still working, the ones who've still got their jobs and hate people who are claiming benefits. The unfairness is the fact that rich people are kind of being left alone. Nobody wants to upset the rich people. And when you look at how much money has been wasted over the last few years. I know this is not all down to the Labour Party, but certainly Brexit, which the Prime Minister is a very, very, very keen proponent of right now, that's costing us 100 billion a year in sales and 40 billion of tax. 40 billion of tax, and we've been employing all these new civil servants and all this effort to try and get back 2 or 3 billion from benefit fraudsters. And you look at what we spent in test and trace and all the rest of it, and right now we're paying £55 million for lawyers for the COVID inquiry. And I think one of the worst wastes of all was the PPE. 14.9 billion we spent on PPE. 8.7 of that, 8.7 billion was written off. And you've got people like Baroness Mohn, who just got a contract because she pestered Michael Gove. And when you look at how much money these people made, and no effort is being made to get it back, all this stuff that was burnt, £8.7 billion worth of PPE was burnt because it was useless. Yet it was all paid for, and no effort is being made to get that money back. And there are bounce-back loans. Any small business could apply for a bounce-back loan. They reckon it's something like 19.7 billion. was defrauded, and it's been written off. Nobody even bothers to follow up or to try and get any of it back. It's just written off. And then you look at all the other things. You look at how, London is a sort of a magnet for dirty money. London and Dubai, and all these people coming here and buying up houses and hiding their dirty money in our tax havens and so on. And you look at companies offshoring profits to avoid tax, and you look at the money laundering businesses. I was out in London yesterday looking around, and I was thinking I could take you in an hour. I could see 20 businesses which I know are laundering money. I don't have proof of it, but it's absolutely obvious. These shops you see all over the place, all well done up, full of stock and so on, a single shop assistant, and you never see a customer in there. They're paying thousands and thousands in rent. Some of those shops in Oxford Street selling American candy, they're paying £20,000 a week rent. And you never see a customer in them. But they don't want to go after them because it's bringing money into the country. See, it's inward investment. They're bringing money into the country, and also it would be a bit difficult. You'd have to do a lot of investigation and so on. It's easier to go after people who selling stuff on eBay and yet claiming benefits, or going car boot sales and saving and not declaring it, or doing some car repairs and getting paid for it, not declaring it. They're the people we want to go after. Never mind all these rich people. And you look at other things. You look at, for example, in terms of unfairness, you look at council tax. Now, councils all over the country are struggling, really, really struggling. A lot of them are on the brink of bankruptcy. A number have gone bankrupt. And we all know that in April, council tax is going to go up. And it is so unfair. A lot of people find this is for a lot of people, it's a very big bill. It's thousands, and you have to find that money, and you're squeezed right, left and centre everywhere anyway. And yet, I'll give you an example which I came across the other day, which it just makes you realise just how mad it is. There's a house in Regent's Park. It's a beautiful house. It's a big white stuccoed house. It's got a lake around it and nice gardens and so on. It's got 40 bedrooms. And it was sold by I think an Arab prince a couple of years ago for £150 million. Now that puts it that puts it into the top band of council tax. And so that house worth £150 million is paying £4,021.14 a year in council tax. Now, what sort of system is that? How crazy is that? When there are people all over the country absolutely struggling to find their council tax. It's just absolutely crazy. It's totally unfair. And yet, of course, the government will say, we'd have to revalue all the properties. It's so difficult. Go on to Rightmove. Any property in the country, they'll tell you the value of it. It's just not impossible. But it is just unfair. And there's been a lot of talk lately about if there was a wealth tax. 1% wealth tax, as probably most people know by now, would raise £24 billion. They aren't going to employ all these hundreds and thousands of civil servants to check everybody's claims to make sure they're not defrauding the benefits by saying they can't work when they can. And that's going to raise £2 billion. And a 1% wealth tax will raise £24 billion. But as I say, it's all because the government doesn't want to upset anybody. They don't want to upset Day Express readers. They don't want to upset Daily Mail readers. They don't want to they don't want to upset rich people because they may not bring their money here. They may go away. And it's just not bold enough. It's not good enough, and it's not fair enough. It's totally unfair that it's the poor people who've got no power whatsoever who are getting squeezed all the time. And I think it's disgraceful. And as far as going back to the dealings with Trump and so on, a foreign policy of all fingers crossed isn't really very good. And when you've got somebody like Trump and you're just hoping he might be nice to us, it's just crazy. And I think, just to finish with, I think the fact that a lot of people are probably not working when perhaps they could do, because I think, in the first place, I think a lot of people are suffering from mental illness because of the pressure, because of the, it's for many people, they'll never have had these sort of problems before where, you might be about to lose your house, you might be going to lose your job, or you might have got marital problems because you're falling out about money and so on. A lot of people will be under an enormous amount of stress. And a lot of people just have no incentive to work. Young people, for example, right now, growing up, I mean, in the past, you'd look forward to getting married, having some children, buying a house. Well, I mean, that's the question now. I mean, many people are not having children, which is, again, storing up problems for the future, because we're not going to have enough people to pay the taxes to keep everybody, all the old folks, alive. And buying a house, I mean, for many people, it's never ever going to happen. Instead, you'll spend a huge proportion of your income on rent, which has been paid to landlords who are getting ever richer. The whole thing is a terrible mess, but I think we do need some sort of boldness. I think this pussyfooting about, and I think initiatives like chasing poor people for the possibility of benefit fraud is really not what we should be doing. Anyway, that's what I think about it. If you watched this far, thank you very much indeed. If you haven't already subscribed, I really would appreciate it if you do so. And so until next time, thank you for watching, and bye for now.